pretty sure this camera's going to cut out before I get to the destination due to heat. But I'll try to keep moving try to get there as quick as I can. Alright, so it's a left on Laurel, left on Main. I've done this before. Same route, different traffic. Different time of day. Sunday. I'm just kind of watching people against my... not against my will, against just... Like, I'm not intentionally... Oh, the potholes! The only 2 potholes in the parking lot. Oh, there's another. And they're big. That's a manhole cover right there. Alright. Oh, there's the beggar. He's back again. Yeah, this camera's feeling rather warm. So it's 4-way stops. And I just have to see who's... Oh, there's a guy over in that corner too. So I can't tell which Mexicans are going to speak English and which aren't. I'm trying to pay attention. I can identify Mexican. Alright, let me just first say 99% of the blacks are going to speak English. You know, that's not an issue. You know, when people talk about minorities, when people talk about different races, it's usually Mexican, whites, and blacks. If we were to focus on the language, who focuses on what particular language? Well, white people, about 95% of white people will speak English. You know, I expect the majority of them. Blacks, like 99%. It's like a guarantee. You know, they'll speak at least an inner city dialect as a secondary. So I don't know what all I said exactly because the camera cut out. I don't know where it cut out. Oops. But yeah, 99% of the blacks will speak English. You know, it's maybe slightly less of the whites. But I mean, it's not too much less. It's pretty similar. You know, blacks are most likely to follow European values, and that's something I found interesting too. You know, I just was thinking about it today, how the blacks seem to respect a very rigid discipline, high authority. Just people, if they say they're going to do something, then do it, even if it's stupid. You do it, you know, and follow through, and that can earn you respect with black people. You know, I got more loose morals, and it's not really that important to me to follow authority strictly. Try to use more rationale and reasonable behavior. But in a lot of interactions I've had with black people, I found that there's rules to follow. Even if they don't make sense, you still stick with them. You can't use that sink. You have to take everything at the food bank. You know, the measurement for those potato wedges might not be exactly a pound like I asked. You know, it's like rigid discipline is really what they respect, because they're hard on themselves for that type of discipline. Okay, it's not just some kind of random it's not just some kind of written down thing that's only applied by other cultures on them. They respect it and practice it themselves. Mexicans, it's really hard to say. I don't know what the deal is, because I've only been able to listen to half the Mexicans. You know, I've been driving around and observing people in cities and stuff, and I only have a kind of an idea of what half the Mexicans are saying, so I really don't know what's going on. I can overhear quite a bit. eyes and ears. I'm only able to use eyes pretty much because I notice the Mexicans like to say look, 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 mira, 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 whether in English or in Spanish. It doesn't matter. They like to say that a lot. And then they like to say sí a lot as well. Yes, 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 yes. But they don't like to say. See, they like to say look a lot in English and in Spanish, but with yes, they seem to just prefer the Spanish version. So some Spanish words they might like to pronounce more often than others. So that's going to change their behaviors, because if you don't like to say yes a lot in English, but you do like to say it a lot in Spanish, well, that's going to change a lot of the dynamics of your conversations. Okay, and that's what happens with all languages. It's just what I'm observing around here. That's I find interesting, but I can't tell who's going to speak English mostly and who's not. Now I could tell who's Mexican. I have a pretty good idea of the features of a Mexican. They don't get ruddy cheeks like I do. Okay, that's a pretty clear one. I'm kind of jealous of that. I can't tan, so I'll get red and inflamed. It's really sunny, and it killed my camera already once, the battery. But I think maybe dress can kind of help. I think the old town Mexicans like to prefer a cowboyish appearance, but not always. Oh, they definitely love to blare that polka with music in their cars with the Spanish words, Mexican words, and all that. But yeah, at what point, I ask, well, what point are we going to start calling the Mexican language Mexican rather than Spanish? Because they are differing themselves from the regular Spanish language. They're not in Spain anymore, and their language is different. It's like the difference between England English and American English. We're not exactly the same anymore. I went to the Bear bicycle shop, and they said it was like $2.19. And I'm like, well, I got $3 here, and he's like, oh, $2 is fine. And see, that's like the difference in rigid discipline that you find in other cultures. Okay, non-European, because it's Europeans, they're flexible. Okay, with that, with pricing just as simple as that.